I am Sir Raris, captain of the guard tasked with protecting Princess Guina of Zone 8. Our job is to protect her at all times, even should it cost us our lives, and that was a duty I was very honored to do. Not once in 16 years had I ever failed in my duty, at least not until that day. It all started on our trip to the neighboring kingdom of Bayern so the princess could visit her friend Princess Miria. It was a pretty standard trip for us, usually only taking about half a day to arrive. However, that day things were different. About halfway through our trip, we came to a sudden stop. I quickly excused myself from the princess's side and left the carriage. Once outside, I found the road blocked by fallen trees. I went over and inspected the trees and immediately noticed they were cut down with haste. Just as I realized it was a trap, trees behind the carriage fell, trapping it in place. I quickly tell my knights to prepare for battle. As they draw their swords, the enemies hop out of the shadows. My knights began to clash swords with what seemed like bandits. I ran to the carriage and grabbed the princess from it. I told her we were under attack and I was going to get her to safety while the other knights held back the enemy. She seemed scared, which is to be expected, but she trusts me more than anyone, so she didn't hesitate to follow me out. I then picked her up, since she's in a poofy dress and heels. With her in my arms, I start running towards the woods, away from the combat and slightly towards Bayern. A few minutes into running, I got a feeling that an attack was coming, so I jumped into the air just in time to dodge a massive fireball. I land and put the princess on the ground. Then I draw my sword and turn to face the direction where the attack came from. I was expecting another bandit, one slightly more sophisticated than the others since he could use magic, but who I saw was much worse. It was the Silver Witch, Rioterm, who was well known for using forbidden magic to control and transform people's bodies. I told the princess to run, and I went to fight off the Silver Witch. At first, it seemed like I stood a chance, but it turns out she was merely toying with me. Once she realized her target was getting too far away, she decided she was done with me. She used magic to freeze me in place. She then walked up to me and gave me a quick glance. She said there were so many things she could turn me into. A goblin, a frog, maybe even a simple flower to sit here and blow in the wind. She then smiled and said I was too cute for something like that. She told me that she would work with that and help me out by making me even cuter. Then she took a step back and began to cast her forbidden spell. I was blinded by the light of her spell and had no idea what it was doing to me, though I could feel a lot changing. When the light vanished, I was no longer frozen in place, and the Silver Witch was gone. Though my body had changed, I didn't have time to figure out how. I needed to get to the princess. I couldn't let the witch take her. I began to run through the forest in the direction where the princess had gone, but it was much harder now. My armor felt heavier, and I felt slightly slower. The witch must have sapped my strength somehow. I couldn't let that stop me. I had to get to the princess before that witch. I continued to run through the forest, following footprints left behind by the princess, when something suddenly caught my foot and I fell to the ground. Slamming down into the ground hurt a lot, and getting back up with my armor being heavier and my body being weaker wasted too much stamina. So I decided to pull the quick release on the heavier stuff and leave it behind. It may be more dangerous for my own life, but I would gladly risk it to save the princess. Without my armor, I was much faster and continued tracking the princess. After a few more minutes and passing by several more trees, I found the princess unconscious at the feet of the witch. The witch had been smiling at the princess, but when she noticed me, she looked annoyed. I told her to get away from the princess. She laughed at me and said she would do no such thing. She said she was taking the princess and no one would stop her. She then pointed her hand at me again and said that it was a shame that I didn't take her kind gift and go off and live a cute new life. I told her there was no way I could abandon the princess, and as long as she was missing, we knights would look for her. The witch looked even more annoyed and said that was a problem for her. She then cast a spell that sent a large amount of tiny, razor-sharp wind blasts towards me. I tried to dodge them, but I was still caught by a few of them. One hit my face, cutting it, while the rest hit what remained of my armor. It managed to cut the straps holding my armor in place, causing them to fall off, and then it cut through my overcoat, leaving me completely unprotected in my normal clothes. As I sat on my knees trying to gain the strength to fight the witch, who clearly outmatched me, she approached me. She said something about needing to make it so the other knights don't follow her by coming to look for the princess. I looked towards her and spit on the ground near her feet. I told her I would never stop. She smiled and said when she was done, I wouldn't even be allowed to look for the princess. I felt my heart sink as her hand came up and she began to cast another spell. I thought this was my end, but after a few seconds, I realized I was fine. I felt less injured than I was a moment ago. I looked down at myself, and my jaw nearly fell off. Not only was I wearing a dress just like the princess would normally wear, but I was a woman now. Though strangely, my body didn't feel any different than it did a moment ago. Had I been a woman since our first meeting? That would explain why my body felt so different and how out of place I felt in it. I look at the witch confused and ask why she did this to me. She smiled and asked me if it wasn't obvious. She needed someone to take the place of the princess, that way, no one came looking for her. For that role, she chose me because I was cute and already here. I asked her if she was stupid. Just because she turned me into a woman and put me in a dress doesn't mean anyone is going to believe I'm Princess Gwyna. The witch laughed at me and then asked me if she hadn't proven how capable she was of magic yet. She tapped me on the nose and said she not only transformed me and dressed me like a princess, but she also enchanted my body so that anyone who laid eyes on me would see Princess Gwyna instead of my normal self. I stood up and gave it one final attempt to fight her to save the princess. However, the witch just dodged my attack, not even needing magic, because I ended up tripping on my dress and falling to the ground. The witch laughed one more time and told me to enjoy my new life as a princess, and then she and the real princess vanished. I got up and went to where the witch had been standing. I hoped she used a short-range teleport spell, but from the burn marks on the ground, it was clear that she was long gone. I clenched my fists and swore she'd meet a blade if a single hair was hurt on the princess's head. As soon as I stopped yelling, I heard footsteps behind me. I prepared myself for another fight, one where I'd be at a disadvantage, but it turned out to be the other knights. They ran right over to me and asked if I was okay. I nodded and told them I was all right, but told them the silver which had taken the princess. They looked at each other confused, then looked back at me. I had already forgotten, to them, I was the princess. I tried to explain that it was just a spell the witch had put on me, but they didn't believe me. Instead, they think I'm the real princess and that the witch messed with my head.
Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. Also check out my Patreon and DeviantArt pages. There you can find all my public stories. You can also support my work by getting early access to all stories, exclusive content, and even commission me to make you a custom story. Anyways, thanks again for watching. I hope you have a great day.